I'll tell you when we're live. 3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, can you see me? Can you hear Nick? Nick, say test, test, 1, 2, 1,
Test,
2.
test, 1, 2, everyone. This is incredible.
This is what we're doing. We're going live here, watching the State of the Union address with us. We're going to let some people file in. But first, we're going to share my screen here and we're going to watch this puppy together. So without further ado, let's turn it over to the President of the United States, who's been speaking a little bit. He's been talking about the USA hockey team and giving them their props. And now getting into a little bit more of the meat of the speech. Let's tune in.
Was pouring, everything was going, and that rapid water, nobody's ever seen anything like it. They said, wow, that's something. Tonight, Scott and Millie Kate are here together, reunited for the very first time. Thank you, Scott, Millie Kate. And Petty Officer Ruskin, I'm pleased to inform you that I am now awarding you the Legion of Merit for extraordinary heroism, which is what it was, extraordinary heroism. Thank you.
Now we're going to do some quick pauses in here because, again, I don't know the entire list of who's going to be attending the State of the Union. We know Erica Kirkus was scheduled to be in attendance. Obviously, the USA men's hockey team. And there's some other people. A lot of this is, again, I don't mean to say this for this guy because I don't know who this person is specifically, but a lot of it is political theater. This happens all the time with State of the Unions. They have scheduled people that are going to be there in attendance that they're going to spotlight. I'm sure there's a couple of folks that are going to be part of this that have had impacts with respect to immigrants and things like that. So I'm pausing in here just so everybody gets some context. I don't know who particularly that person is. We thank them for their service, obviously, but you're going to see more of this. You're going to see a lot of applause breaks and things like that. Nick and I will always pause and maybe give a little bit of analysis when he starts touching on some of the different things, whether it be economy, immigration, et cetera. So let's go back to the video.
And I'd like to have the military aide to please come down and take care of the service. Military aide, thank you very much. Take care of that very important service. Thank you very much. From 1776 to today, every generation of Americans has stepped forward to defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they're really doing it for the next generation. But now it's our turn. Together we're building a nation where every child has the chance to reach higher and go further, where government answers to the people, not the powerful, and where the interests of hardworking American citizens are always our first and ultimate concern. That is the day.
Say that again, sir.
He didn't really just say that about it doesn't answer to the powerful, did he? Mr. I'm taking money from Silicon Valley, like every member of Congress, folks. I'm not,
That's right. You got to point
man.
that out. A lot of people are taking money from the.
It's APAC Central there. It's how many people that Mark Zuckerberg's wallets get fat with, right? Like, come on.
Right. We'll go back to the speech.
Back to the action.
Debt we owe to the heroes who came before us, and that is the promise we must keep to America for our 250th year. Last year, I urged this Congress to begin the mission by passing the largest tax cuts in American history, and our Republican majorities delivered so beautifully. Thank you, Republicans.
All right, so just a quick pause on here so everybody sees. The left side of the screen obviously is where Republicans are sitting. You see cabinet members there in the Supreme Court sitting court side, for lack of a better term. But on the right-hand side, if you notice, it's a little bit fractured splitting with respect to the seating. So you see Hakeem Jeffries. If you look to the center right. He's in that furthest right aisle, and he's sitting there along with some other members of the Democratic House. There's some House members, Senate members that have decided to protest and not go to the State of the Union. Nick and I are going to touch on that in a little bit. But this is what you're seeing right now. They weren't fully unified in terms of, do they go, do they not go? And if they do go, do they just sit there and not say anything? Do they all wear the same things? And typical Democratic fashion, they couldn't even get that aligned together in terms of what they wanted to do from a response perspective. Nick is shaking his head because he agrees, as do I. Nick,
well, apparently, Jeffries already had said going into this that, people were going to, sit down, be quiet if you're going to be here, be respectful, which is funny because it's not unlike what a bus driver says to a group of kindergartners. And it still didn't work. I mean, Al Green, I think, got scored out like 5 minutes in. So if you were placing bets on that, folks, the under was the way to go with that one. And he had some sign on the way out, and some guy grabbed the sign. Theater is a word for it. Not to mention, I think you and I talked about this before, but the number of times people get up and sit down, man, like, just stupid. Like, I mean, great for everyone's glutes. Like, that's a great workout. But every 5 minutes, we're going to be like, he says something, and then we're like, oh, I got to stand up. And or not, we're going to stand up. And
well, here's what I'm going to do. Every time they applaud, because we're getting some comments in the stream, every time they applaud, I'm going to mute the applause so that way we can talk through it. But then when he goes,
I can't see the comments. What comments are you seeing?
The people are saying, shut up, Nick. We're behind on the stream, so shut up. Here we go.
Every single one of them voted against these really important and very necessary, massive tax cuts.
See, now we get to the Dems clapping part here.
They wanted large-scale tax increases to hurt the people instead. But we held strong, and with the great, big, beautiful bill, we gave you no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors.
It's only up to a certain amount, folks. It's not no tax on tip in perpetuity or infinity. It's like up to 25,000.
You're not trying to say he's lying, are you?
I don't understand. No. You just can't blanket statement no tax on tip when it clearly has a cap.
Interest on
that's his entire campaign,
tax deductible the first time, but only if the car is made in America.
Of which most cars are not, folks. Parts are made outside the U.S.
Well,
this is
been the good ones. Thing. The good ones. The good ones. Yes, correct.
Recently in Pennsylvania, I met Megan Hemhauser, a devoted mom who's homeschools her children, beautiful, 2 children, during the day while waiting tables at night as her husband works overtime operating very heavy equipment. Megan is here this evening, and she's happy to tell you that she is so much richer because with no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and her expanded child tax credit done again by Republicans, Megan and her husband will take home more than $5,000 extra just for the year, cutting her tax bill in more than half.
I'm supposed to get excited about $5,000.
I was going to say, I'm not belittling this woman and how much she makes and stuff like that, and the political games we play. But if anybody was like, you're going to make an extra $5,000 for the whole year, I would be like, that's horrific. That's terrible. That's not going to help me. I have a family of 4.
I mean, but it's also relative too. Like, listen, I mean, it's the service industry is tough. And any money you take back, that's great.
So activate their children's brand new Trump accounts. And I didn't name it.
Folks, stop the tape. Stop the tape. Folks,
I'm not stopping it.
If you're stupid enough to invest your money in these Trump accounts, you may as well go get a Trump NFT while you're at it.
Okay, back to the speech.
By a very tall man sitting right there in the 3rd row. Nice man, a good man. Tax-free investment accounts for every American child. This is something that's so special and has taken off and gone through the roof. Millions will be pre-funded courtesy of the U.S. Treasury and private individuals like Michael and Susan Dell, who have donated $6.25 billion to fund the Trump accounts for 25 million American children.
Now, I've actually done some insight into this because I did a panel on this recently, real quick. It's the equivalent, if I'm not mistaken, to like up to $300 to $500 per kid that actually does get one of these accounts. It's a startup account and it's spread out. And there's qualifiers in terms of it. You don't necessarily automatically qualify. We're going to go back to the speech.
School, and I made computers and I'd sell them to people. And I just kept selling and selling and selling. And pretty amazing story. That's called the American dream. He sold a lot of computers, a lot of those laptops. So I congratulate him on that. But I really thank him and Susan, as well as others like Brad Gerstner, a very tremendous guy. He was behind it right from the beginning. Brad Gerstner. Thank you, Brad.
If you want, by the way, a quick horror, just look up what Susan Dell looks like now, what she used to look like. This is not, again, to, denigrate anybody's looks, but she looks a little bit different over these last 10 years in the MAGA universe. We leave it there. Go back to the speech.
Young people's accounts could grow to over $100,000 or more by the time they turn 18. Think of it. How much money is that for somebody that started with nothing? Over 100,000, could be much more than that. To make this investment in our children's future.
Sway?
Sir, we're watching a live stream of the 47th president of the United States. Have some respect.
Keep going. Keep going.
Sure.
Yeah, whatever.
Go to trumpaccounts.gov, trumpaccounts.gov. And a lot of people are doing it. It's setting every record in the book. It's popular. They knew what it was going to take. I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of the people that got it started. And now it's just taken off. One of the primary reasons for our country's stunning economic turnaround, the biggest in history, where the Dow Jones broke 50,000 4 years ahead of schedule, and the S&P hit 7,000, where it wasn't supposed to do it for many years, were tariffs. I used these tariffs, took in hundreds of billions of dollars to make great deals for our country, both economically and on a national security basis. Everything was working well. Countries that were ripping us off for decades are now paying us hundreds of billions of dollars. They were ripping us so badly, you all know that. Everybody knows it.
You know it, Severi.
Democrats know it. They just don't want to say it. And yet these countries are now happy, and so are we. We made deals. The deals are all done. And they're happy. They're not making money like they used to, but we're making a lot of money. There was no inflation, tremendous growth, and the big story was how Donald Trump called the economy correctly, and 22 Nobel Prize winners in economics didn't. They got it totally wrong. They got it really wrong. And then just 4 days ago, an unfortunate ruling from the United States Supreme Court, it just came down. It came down. Very unfortunate ruling. But the good news is that almost all countries and corporations want to keep the deal that they already made, right, Scott? Knowing that the legal power that I, as president, have to make a new deal could be far worse for them, and therefore they will continue to work along the same successful path that we had negotiated before the Supreme Court's unfortunate involvement. So despite the disappointing ruling, these powerful country saving, it's saving our country, the kind of money we're taking in, peace protecting. Many of the wars I settled was because of the threat of tariffs. I wouldn't have been able to settle them without. Will remain in place under fully approved and tested alternative legal statutes. And they have been tested for a long time.
She's like, what did I get myself into?
That's
probably
the hit the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme right there.
That will be even stronger than before. Congressional action will not be necessary. It's already time tested and approved. And as time goes by, I believe the tariffs paid for by foreign countries will, like in the past, substantially replace the modern day system of income tax, taking a great financial burden off the people that I love.
Folks, real quick, a February 2026 report from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York confirmed that 90% of the economic burden of tariffs in 2025 were paid by American consumers. An additional $1,300 to $1,700 you were paying. Only 10% was picked up by foreign governments or businesses. 90 is bigger than 10. Back to the 47th president.
Yeah, I mean, on that point, when he talks about the money that's coming in, he's right. The government got the money.
Correct. You're not getting the money,
right?
But the government got it.
Which, how is a Republican going to tell me the money is coming back? in the words of Bane.
No, you can't. No. We give it back to you, the people of Gotham. All right, back to the
It's not.
president. The Nick, stop doing the impression that I do so well.
Why are you doing Indian accent?
America first. I put America first. I love America.
He loves America, but
He
take a
loves
little
that
bit of
money.
money.
We take it.
Yeah, right. It reminds me of the Dave Chappelle. I love that oil. Oil.
Came
Oil.
along.
Did you cook?
We had the exact opposite. From trade to healthcare, from energy to immigration, everything was stolen and rigged in order to drain the wealth out of the productive, hardworking people who make our country great, who make our country run. Under Biden and his corrupt partners in Congress and beyond, it reached a breaking point with the Green New scam, open borders for everyone. They poured in by the millions and millions from prisons, from mental institutions. They were murderers, 11,000.
So just real quick.
Hey, Latinos, by the way, shout out to you all because polling day is telling us that we went from 43% support the president to 22. Folks, including my brown friend who's with me, he's
Not
talking
me.
about you.
Yeah, he's talking about
Let's
you.
be clear.
Yeah,
He's talking about you,
Wait.
Latinos.
just real quick. I'm going to be posting a clip later on social media because I did a TV hit earlier today, and I said in the hit they were like final thoughts, and I'm like, I'm going to come back, save this clip because all he's going to do in this speech is the usual millions poured in, or so many. There's just criminals, rapists. They're coming from prisons. You don't know where they're coming from. Open borders. He's going to play the greatest hits. So you're going to see in a little bit on social media a video of me touting how I know this speech word for word. A radical Democrat. It's coming up, folks. But back to the president.
888 murders. They came into our country. You allowed that to happen. And record-setting inflation that cost the typical family $34,000 in just a speck of time. Now the same people in this chamber who voted for those disasters suddenly use the word affordability, a word they just used it.
This was something else I talked about.
Here we go.
Knowing full
Here we
well
go.
that
The
they
man ran on
caused and
affordability.
created
And now it's a problem.
the increased prices that all of our citizens had to endure. You caused that problem.
You gonna sit there just
You
keep blinking,
caused that
Hakeem? That's your
problem.
response? Freaking fool. Keep blinking. Looks like a Mike Tyson punch-out character. That's your cue when you start swinging on Hakeem. Wait for him to start blinking.
They knew their statements were a lie. They knew it. They knew their statements were a dirty, rotten lie. Their policies created the high prices. Our policies are rapidly ending them. We are doing really well. Those prices are plummeting downward.
For Elizabeth Warren. Chris
Elizabeth Warren looks
Coons.
like
The
you're just a
price of
concerned
eggs
parent.
is down 60%, Madam Secretary. Thank you. The cost of chicken, butter, fruit, hotels, automobiles, rent is lower today than when I took office by a lot. And even beef, which was very high, is starting to come down significantly. Just hold on a little while. We're getting it down. And soon you will see numbers that few people would think were possible to achieve just a short time ago. Nobody can believe when they see the kind of numbers, and especially energy, when they see energy going down to numbers like that, they cannot believe it. It's like another big tax cut.
Did he just say energy's
I'm
going
also
down?
confronting
No, beef,
one of
beef.
the biggest ripoffs of our times, the crushing cost of health care caused by you. Since the passage of the
Here we go.
Unaffordable Care Act,
Here we go.
sometimes referred to as Obamacare, big insurance companies have gotten rich. It was meant for the insurance companies, not for the people. With our government giving them hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars a year as their stock prices soared 1,000, 1,200, 1,400, and even 1,700%.
cocaine off of
Like nothing else. That's why I introduced the great healthcare plan. I want to stop all payments to big insurance companies and instead give that money directly to the people so they can buy their own healthcare, which will be better healthcare at a
Let me tell you something. They're not going to be able to afford that health care. Wait till they find out. Obamacare, what it did was give people options, it doesn't necessarily mean that the doctor has to accept that provider.
Now,
I know my wife is a medical
surprisingly-
secretary. Your wife works in
Medicine, right.
Exactly.
Well, I'll say this: like, the thing about the criticism of ACA as it relates to insurance companies is right.
Right.
That this is absolutely true. Insurance companies got fat on that, right? You know, you all got fat out here. Why am I stopped? For anyone who's a fan of the movie King of New York, I think that makes sense. The problem is the only other alternative is a direct pay system, a single payer, which would be the government, which is obviously what no one's going to want, at least for the Republicans. So to take shots at Obamacare, but now you have so many people on the system that you're basically now raising premiums, or they just don't stay on the system at all, it's not going to work either. So when he's talking about healthcare being improved, what for who is he talking about? Members of Congress?
Sounds so simple, so big.
Right. So
I did
bad,
that
Nick.
in my
So
first
bad.
term, and the Democrats immediately terminated it with full knowledge that they were doing a very bad thing for the people. Of course, we're going to go way up, and that's what happened. And now I'm bringing them way down on health care and everything else. I'm also ending the wildly inflated cost of prescription drugs like has never happened before.
This one's also a lie, because if you actually follow the Trump prescription website, it's just going back to the actual pharmaceutical websites
Other
themselves.
presidents tried to do it, but they never could. They tried. Most didn't try, actually. But they tried. They said they tried. They couldn't
Who's
do
most?
it.
There's
They didn't even
47 of
come
them we're
close.
talking about.
They were all talk and no action, but I got it done. Under my just enacted most favored nation agreements, Americans who have for decades paid by far the highest prices of any nation anywhere in the world for prescription drugs will now pay the lowest price anywhere in the world for drugs, anywhere.
Folks,
The
if you're
lowest
watching
price.
this, please post in the comments if this is true. Like if you're noticing that your medicines for diabetes, erectile dysfunction, I don't give a damn.
Right.
You're seeing a marked decrease, by all means, put the link in the chat. Feel free to try and shut me up, because he's full of shit.
Right. And you're not seeing 1,500% drop, because then they would be paying you to take the drug. Back to the president.
Prescription drugs, a very big part of healthcare, from the highest price in the entire world to the lowest. That's a big achievement. The result is price differences of 300, 400, 500, 600% and more, all available right now at a new website called TrumpRx.gov. And I didn't name that one either, by the way.
He didn't name Trump RX.
And here tonight is the very
Yeah,
first customer ever to get that big discount, and it is big. Catherine Rayner. For 5 years, she and her husband have struggled with infertility, and they turned to IVF. One drug has been costing Catherine $4,000 to purchase. But a few weeks ago, she logged onto the Trump RX website and got that same drug that cost $4,000, got it for under $500, a reduction of much more, actually, than $3,500.
Thank you for doing simple math.
Catherine, we are all praying for you, and you're going to be a great mom.
A great mom.
No, and jokes aside, that's awesome.
No, that is awesome.
That's
See, but
incredible.
that's what I'm talking about, Nick. It's the broken clock twice a day, right? Like there's small little things. I've shown you that about the state of Florida. Like there's certain things that they do here in the education world with respect to grants and programs, and you're like, wow, they really do that. And I'm like, yeah, they do that, man. So anyway, let's go back to more of this, and we'll debunk a little bit more as we keep going.
Program into law. Now, the one thing I'm not sure it matters, because it's going to be very hard for somebody that comes along after me to say, let's raise drug prices by 700 or 800%. But John and Mike, if you don't mind, codify it anyway. They may do it. Codify it anyway. Thank you. Many Americans are also concerned that energy demand from AI data centers could unfairly drive up their electric utility bills.
It already is.
Tonight, I'm pleased to announce that I have negotiated the new Ratepayer Protection Pledge. You know what that is?
We don't.
No,
We're
no.
telling the major tech companies that they have the obligation to provide for their own power needs. They can build their own power plants as part of their factory, so that no one's prices will go up. And in many cases, prices of electricity will go down for the community, and very substantially down. This is a unique strategy never used in this country before. We have an old grid. It could never handle the kind of numbers, the amount of electricity that's needed. So I'm telling them they can build their own plant. They're going to produce their own electricity. It will ensure the company's ability to get electricity while at the same time lowering prices of electricity for you, and could be very substantial for all of you cities and towns. You're going to see some good things happen over the next number of years. Another pillar of the American dream that has been under attack is home ownership. With us tonight is Rachel Wiggins, a mom of 2 from Houston. She placed bids on 20 homes and lost all of those bids to gigantic
guy was falling asleep, and then
firms that
this person's been called up
inspection,
and he woke up.
paid all cash, and turned those houses into rentals, stealing away her American dream. She was devastated. Stories like this are why last month I signed executive order to ban large Wall Street investment firms from buying up in the thousands single-family homes.
All right. Yeah.
To his credit, I
just
think
too much
I think this is a
clapping.
great idea. Yeah, the standing is just stupid, but
Yeah.
no, as a homeowner, we see all the time when houses go up, and thankfully we've been seeing like people buying them. They're just not bought by companies. But I think any person that's willing to step up and say that a home should only be purchased, homes, not commercial property. No, credits to the president. We'll see over time, because people can always find ways to maybe not qualify as a major business, and who knows. But the idea of it, I did give him a lot of praise for.
Administration, we will always protect Social Security and Medicare. They are not protecting it for our seniors. We will always protect Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid.
Yeah, he's lying about that one.
Since I took office, the typical 401k balance is up by at least $30,000. That's a lot of money. We have millions and millions of people, because the stock market has done so well, setting all those records. Your 401ks are way up. Yet half of all of working
I actually got my
Americans
statement
still do
recently.
not
It's
have
not.
access to a retirement plan with matching contributions from an employer. To remedy this gross disparity, I'm announcing that next year my administration will give these often forgotten American workers, great people, the people that built our country, access to the same type of retirement plan offered to every federal worker. We will match your contribution with up to $1,000 each year. As we ensure that all Americans can profit from a rising stock market, let's also ensure that members of Congress cannot corruptly profit from using insider information.
Do tell.
I hope that
hear-
applies to all parties.
I want to
Mr.
hear
President.
more about that.
Yeah. Nick Saveri, get the red hat out.
No, I'm consistent with this. Like, I don't think any of these people should make money on the stock market. So good for the president to call it out.
They stood up for that. I can't believe it.
Yeah, because some of your friends.
Shut up.
I can't believe it.
Meanwhile, this
Did
guy's
Nancy
making
Pelosi
what,
stand
$1 billion,
up and say
$3 billion on his presidency. Shut
Said
up.
Nancy Pelosi stood up.
Pass
that's fair.
the
That's
Stop Insider Trading Act without delay.
I agree with that.
Yep, we're on board with that.
I wasn't sure if anybody even on this side was going to applaud for that. I'm very impressed. Thank you. I'm very impressed. But when it comes to the corruption that is plundering, it's plundering America. There's been no more stunning example than Minnesota, where members of the Somali community have
Here we go.
pillaged an estimated $19 billion from the American taxpayer. Oh, we have all the information. And in actuality, the number is much higher than that. And California, Massachusetts, Maine, and many other states are even worse. This is the kind of corruption that shreds the fabric of a nation, and we are working on it like you wouldn't believe. So tonight, although started 4 months ago, I am officially announcing the war on fraud to be led by our great Vice President J.D. Vance.
I'm sorry. This guy, Donald J. Trump? He's going to go after fraud? Mr. Trump Steaks? Trump University? I'll believe when I see it.
At least JD is actually going to be doing something instead of podcasting. That's pretty
Yeah,
good.
please. You'll just
He'll get it done.
whatever.
And if we're able to find enough of that fraud, we will actually have a balanced budget overnight. It'll go very quickly.
Like, will they
That's
start
the kind of money
Mississippi
you're
with the
talking about. We'll
tap
balance our budget.
money?
The
They
Somali
will.
pirates who ransacked Minnesota remind us that there are large parts of the world where bribery, corruption, and lawlessness are the norm, not the exception. Importing these cultures through unrestricted immigration and open borders brings those problems right here to the USA. And it is the American people who pay the price in higher medical bills, car insurance rates, rent, taxes, and perhaps most importantly, crime. We will take care of this problem. We're going to take care of this problem. We are not playing games.
Oh, I like that
Delilah,
badge. That's a fun. She's all out with it. And C-SPAN got the F word out in front. Oh my goodness.
Delilah Coleman was only 5 years old in June 2024 when a 18-wheel tractor trailer plowed into her stopped car traveling at 60 miles an hour or more. The driver was an illegal alien let in by Joe Biden and given a commercial driver's license by open borders politicians in California. Doctors said Delilah would never be able to walk or talk, have a good life. She wouldn't even be able to eat again. But against all odds, she is now in the first grade learning to walk. And she's here this evening with her dad, Marcus, a fantastic man. Delilah, please, you are a great inspiration. Please stand up.
See, the issue I have with these things is like a horrific story. Now you got to find out more about it. But, you know, without being racist, Delilah's dad was born here because, you know, if we're talking about immigrant crimes, like, you know, am I tell me I'm making something up?
No,
Nick.
there's certainly tokenism on this, right? It's like let's take the person of color and say like let's celebrate their story. I just hate this because again, it's a tragic story, but
Right.
we both parties could do this all day long. Like we can
Right.
find another tragic case on the other side. Like I wish we would stop doing this. This is the
Same.
whole Joe the plumber nonsense.
I agree. I agree.
That's why tonight I'm calling on Congress to pass what we will call the Delilah Law, barring any state from granting commercial driver's licenses to illegal aliens.
And you know what the problem is with that? And I deal with a lot of lawyers now with the Legal Podcast Network that deal with these injury claims and stuff like that. Because a lot of these sites, whether it be oil rig sites and things like that, they do hire immigrant labor. I'm all for fixing that and like making sure their workers are, you know, properly documented because they take advantage of those workers, Nick. It's something that, you know, Tony Kinnan and I have talked about on the show. I'm like, I agree with you on that. The problem is that you want to just get rid of that workforce entirely. You don't actually want to change the system by how they hire people and how they have everything up to date. Like you just want to get rid of all their workers and then, all right, come back in the legal way, which is going to take years for those companies to ever hire.
This is sort of the premise. It's like we keep thinking that we can just keep tossing all these brown people because again, this is all focused on brown immigrants as though white people are going to step up and take these jobs. And
Right.
we have seen that it never, ever is the case. So we're talking about the economy. Are you all prepared to pay higher prices because your labor force is going to get sapped because of this specter of the rapist slash, you know, illegal slash, you know, mental patient
And,
coming over?
and by the way, back to your example, we have no idea what happened in this car accident. The only thing that we do know, according to the president, is that this person was illegal. That's all we know. So we don't know if, like, again, wet road, we don't know conditions. We don't know the accident report. We don't know what police have said about the report, which I'm sure this is all documented. We don't know any of that. All we know is what he led with, that the person was
it's always
illegal.
come down to, you know, in matters of crime involving a certain group of people, we're going to bring up their citizenry or their status
Right,
as
status,
as a citizen. Like I could go look at every mass shooter that's been white. who runs around and says, well, this person's German, this person's Polish. Like, you don't make any judgments about a whole swath of people based on one thing
We can never
unless you
forget
traffic
that
in
men in
racism,
this
which is
room
what this is.
Great point.
not only allowed the border invasion to happen before I got involved, but indeed they would do it all over again if they ever had the chance. If they ever got elected, they would open up those borders to some of the worst criminals anywhere in the world.
Always the
the
criminals.
greatest hit. Back to
Always
the
the
greatest
criminals.
hits.
Americans
You keep
and a
talking
wide
about
open
Latinos that way.
Right
That's why the
now
numbers
is
keep going
President
down.
Donald J. Trump and our great Republican patriots in Congress. Thank you. Thank you.
That are losing the Latino vote, and those
By the
5
way-
seats in Texas may get down to 3. But that's okay.
By the way,
Do you?
In 2018, Trump's midterm year, Democrats picked up 40 to 41 seats to flip the House. Just keep that in mind for everybody. And it's because of speeches like this, and it's because of not only rhetoric, but some of the action as well. Because remember, he tried tariffs in the 1.0 administration. And then it wasn't until 2019 when the economy started to steer a little bit more into his favor. And here you're seeing, I believe that's Mondre Jones, right? I think that is.
Maybe.
I know that's Jamie Raskin next to, I think it is Mondre Jones from New York. But anyway, back to the speech.
Demanding the full and immediate restoration of all funding for the border security, homeland security of the United States, and also for helping people clean up their snow. We have no money because of the Democrats, and it would be nice. We'd love to give you a hand at cleaning it up, but you gave no money. Nobody's getting paid. It's a shame. So you have to think about it. We have, in case you didn't know, a pretty large snowstorm out there. One of the great things about the State of the Union is how it gives Americans the chance to see clearly
is
what
that?
their
I don't know.
representatives
Who
Wake him
is
up, bro.
that? Freeze him right there. Freeze it right there. Who is this dude? This dude is white. If you're watching us on
Hold
live
on,
right
I'm
now,
gonna see if I can go find this on Google.
God bless. I have no idea who that is, but he's got a Ukraine flag. So I'm going to assume he's a Democrat, but it could. Is that Mark? Wait, is that Mark?
No, it's
Warren?
not. No, Mark Warren.
So tonight I'm inviting every legislator.
Oh, it's
to
Tom Swazi.
join
It's
with
Tom
my
Swazi.
Looks like I had
administration in
toothache.
reaffirming a
That's Tom
fundamental
Swazi from New
principle.
York. Yep.
If you
See?
agree with this statement,
Nice job.
then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Now I know we're a little bit behind on the stream for everybody that's watching us on the live, so we're probably going to fast forward in a little bit, but let's keep hearing a little bit more of the speech.
Possible candidate Mark Kelly for 2028.
Possible. I do think Dems need to embrace that Democrat that's military background, a little bit more moderate.
I think so too.
Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens, in many cases drug lords, murderers all over our country. They're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
I'm glad to see people speaking up. Too bad Hakeem's plan was not this to happen. Look at JD Vance. Dude, this guy's talking about people coming in from the other country. You married one of those. So did Trump, come to think of it.
They all do it, Nick. It's the hypocrisy. That's the whole point.
And perhaps most importantly, I'm asking you to approve the Save America Act.
This bullshit.
Now, this Save America Act is not actually going to save America, because if we truly wanted to save America and get people to participate in the election process, we would make it a holiday, a week off. We would encourage early voting. We would centralize the 50 states, but we don't do that. That's not what this act does. We're going to talk about it in a bit.
Rampant. It's very simple. All voters must show voter ID.
Which they do to register.
Folks, again, in every single state, you show ID to either register or the day of when you go to the precinct. Like here in Florida, you have to bring your ID with you in order to be able to vote. Every state does this now. You're already validated. That's why Nicki Minaj and other people who are complaining about this can't vote, because she's a permanent resident. She's not a U.S. citizen. That's how you know the system's working. Okay, just an FYI. Back to a little bit more of the Save America Act, which is not going to save America.
Except for illness, disability, military, or travel. None. And this should be an easy one. And by the way, it's polling at 89%, including Democrats. 89%.
I don't believe that that's accurate, but was that a shocker?
I mean, I've heard that number before, but...
And even the new communist mayor of New York City, I think he's a nice guy, actually. Speak to him a lot. Bad policy, but nice
He's
guy.
a communist
Just
now,
said they
right?
want people to shovel snow. They got hit hard. Wants them to shovel snow, but if you apply for that job, you need to show 2 original forms of ID and a Social Security card.
Fuck Steve Scalise.
Yet they don't want identification for the greatest privilege of them all, voting in America. No, it's no good. No good.
I don't know how true that is. I got to look up the
Republicans and
Zoran.
I think I've heard this story. I think there is some
overwhelmingly
truth to
agree
it,
on the
but
policy
again,
that
you have to show ID
we just
in order to register.
enunciated.
This is
And Congress
not a serious
should
conversation.
unite and enact this common sense, country-saving legislation right now, and it should be before anything else happens.
Oh, it has to be, because that's how they're going to try to take this election, make it harder for people to vote.
And the reason they don't want to do it, why would anybody not want voter ID? One reason, because they want to cheat. There's only one reason.
From the guy who
They
asked for
make
10,000
up all
votes in Georgia.
excuses. They say it's racist. They come up with things. You almost say, what imagination they have. They want to cheat. They have cheated. And their policy is so bad that the only way they can get elected is to cheat. And we're going to stop it. We have to stop it.
So
John.
2024 was a legit election. 2020 was not. 2016 was.
Just real quick on the Zoran thing, it is a little nonsensical. You had to register for an appointment, and when you go there, you'd have to bring two original forms of ID plus copies of Social Security card and 2 small photos.
Yeah, he just walked,
Again,
he walked
those are
into
like
that.
passport photos. Original forms of ID would be, I guess, I don't know, birth certificate, driver's license. That's ridiculous to shovel snow. That is ridiculous. Again, running into the kicker, roughing the kicker. That's running into the kicker. We got to call. That's a foul. It's a 5-yard penalty. Maybe it's not an automatic first down, but it's a 5-yard penalty. We got to call that.
No,
That's ridiculous that
the
they
hypocrisy's
would
there,
institute
right?
that.
Yeah,
Correct.
no, if you're going to do it, then I would ask you to, like, maybe you, if you are this worried about shoveling, then yeah, maybe you should make the elections having that many forms of ID.
Doesn't change the fact that the Save America Act is not saving America, because it's making people do exactly what Zoran is making them do in terms of show ID. They got to go get those forms now. I'm making fun of it for shoveling snow. Now I got to go find it to re-register. And I don't know if, again, I got to look at the bill again. I think it's for new voters. I don't necessarily know. Like if you're in a red state like me, like in Florida, I would already be grandfathered in because I'm already registered to vote. So they've already validated me, and I have to bring ID. So I'd have to go back and see this, but let's find out a little bit more about Sage Blair, who's being used as a political pawn here in the State of the Union address.
And thank you for your great bravery. And who can believe that we're even speaking about things like this? 15 years ago, if somebody was up here and said that, they'd say, what's wrong with him? But now we have to say it because it's going on all over numerous states without even telling the parents. But surely we can all agree no state can be allowed to rip children from their parents' arms and transition them to a new gender against the parents' will. Who would believe that we're even talking
Who's
about
doing
that?
that?
We must ban it, and we must ban it immediately.
So Sage Blair is a Virginia teenager whose legal case involves school officials and parental rights. Her case centers on allegations that school officials made decisions affecting her without notifying or involving her parent, including responses to her safety and welfare at school, claims that remain the subject of ongoing litigation. The Blair family alleges that Sage ran away, was sex trafficked, and suffered abuse and trauma as a result of the school's actions. That's what is being alleged in what their suit. And of course, there's more on this. You can go read it over at Newsweek. That's where I'm reading it from.
No one cares more about protecting America's youth than our wonderful First Lady, now a movie star. She's a movie star. Can you believe
Well,
that?
certainly not the president, who we just heard more
would've
allegations
believed
about
that?
as it relates to Epstein. But okay.
Over the past year, she has had an incredible impact championing AI legislation, advancing a landmark executive order on foster care, and helping secure $30 million to launch the Melania Trump Foster Youth to Independence Initiative. It's a tremendous, really a tremendous thing that happened and had a lot of bipartisan support. She gets much better bipartisan support than I do. I get none. She gets a lot. Someday you're going to have to tell me how you did that. And students and educators in every state have joined the First Lady's efforts in the presidential AI challenge, keeping America's next generation positioned to succeed and strongly succeed in the future. Tonight, we welcome two young people whose lives reflect the First Lady's impact, Sierra Burns and Everest Nevermont. Thank you both, and Melania, thank you. I know how hard you worked on it. Thank you very much.
She barely knows what the letters AI stand for. What are we talking about?
Not everything. What do you mean?
Well, there's always that.
I'm very proud to say that during my time in office, both the first 4 years and in particular this last year, there has been a tremendous renewal in religion, faith, Christianity, and belief in God. Tremendous renewal.
This is where Dems lose elections.
This is
folks.
especially true among young people, and a big part of that had to do with my great friend, Charlie Kirk, a great guy, great man.
And here we
Wait,
go.
do we need fireworks, or should we get the fireworks loaded up? Or
Oh, so now we look somber. Now we look somber.
So
Okay.
last year, Charlie was violently murdered by an assassin and martyred, really martyred for his beliefs. His wonderful wife, Erica, is with us tonight. Erica, please stand.
she's already standing there.
He's so performative. Oh my God. I sound like Candace Owens when I talk about it. Today,
No,
the tears come.
isn't that the worst part in all of this? Like we're siding with we're standing with Candace Owens, like out of all the
No,
people.
look at this. Look at this. I haven't
Yeah,
seen these
I'm not
tears.
gonna judge
I will.
how she
I
grieves.
will.
I
You can
really
take
don't
this-
know
we
their
can sit this one out.
relationship. Yeah, I'll sit it out.
No, she's just
America
capitalizing
is
on
one
this. That's fine.
nation under God, and we must totally reject political violence of any kind.
Except on January 6th.
We love religion, and we love bringing it back, and it's coming back at levels that nobody actually thought possible. It's really a beautiful thing to see. Above all, unleashing America's promise requires keeping our communities safe. We have made incredible strides, yet dangerous repeat offenders continue to be released by pro-crime Democrat politicians again and again. We are honored to be joined tonight by a woman who's been through hell, Anya Zarutska. In 2022, she and her beautiful daughter, so beautiful, what a beautiful young woman, Irina, fled war-torn Ukraine to live with relatives near Charlotte, North Carolina. And by the way, what's going on with Charlotte? Last summer, 23-year-old Irina was riding home on the train when a deranged monster who had been arrested over a dozen times and was released through no cash bail, stood up and viciously slashed a knife through her neck and body. No one will ever forget there were people on that train. No one will ever forget the expression of terror on Irina's face as she looked up at her attacker in the last seconds of her life. She died instantly. She had escaped a brutal war only to be slain by a hardened criminal, set free to kill in America, came in through open borders. Mrs. Zarutska, tonight I promise you we will ensure justice for your magnificent daughter, Irina.
Now,
It's
I will say,
always
the-
the,
wait, hold
always
on,
the
hold on,
brown
hold on.
boogeyman.
Hold on,
Always the
hold on,
brown
no,
boogeyman.
hold on. I will say about the Irina thing, like something on cashless bail, we do have to do something about. And I was telling you this about the Alabama solution, that documentary on HBO that I highly encourage people to go watch. But that's more about prisons in general. But there are a lot of states right now that cashless bail and the process of letting out folks that are going to reoffend, like this guy unfortunately did, and ended up killing this poor girl on the I believe it was a train, right? Or like a metro move or something like
think
that in
something like
Charlotte.
that,
Yeah, like it's a horrific story. Again, two things can be true at the same time. I agree with what he's talking about with respect to the cashless bail. I agree with what you're talking about in terms of the amount, right? They think it's this huge quantity of people that are committing similar atrocities like this guy, where it's isolated examples. It doesn't condone it. It's just to say that the numbers don't bear in that direction. But it is
No,
horrific.
but, and it
what
is
happened.
dangerous because you're doing similar to what we did after 9/11. You're
Right.
saying this group of people, and then suddenly people like me randomly walk on the streets like, well, you did this. And it's like, you know, this
In
is
DC,
what
how
you
did
do.
that
This is
happen?
racism.
Right.
In fact, crime in Washington is now at the lowest level ever recorded, and murders in D.C. this January were down close to 100% from a year ago. They don't like to hear that. One of the brave service members who helped achieve this stunning turnaround was 20-year-old West Virginia Army National Guard Specialist Sarah Beckstrom. After a 4-month deployment, she voluntarily extended her service, and her rank was going to be lifted. She was doing so well. They were so proud of her. But the very next day, she was on patrol near the White House when she was ambushed and shot in the head by a terrorist monster from
This is really
Afghanistan.
disgusting.
Shouldn't have been in our country.
And we're going to be this graphic, like have these
And
poor
all
people
because she
relive
wore
this
the
for
uniform
political
of our-
theater.
What's worse about this is, again, this is something directly that President Trump did. He deployed the National Guard. And her deployment, again, from West Virginia, because West Virginia is a red state and the governor complied, the governor sent National Guard troops because the president accepted it. Like, because he said DC was on fire. And so we need the National Guard there, which we all know DC crime was down and it was not on fire as the president was claiming. That's a direct result of his actions and a red state governor sending National Guard troops to patrol the streets, like we saw, where they're picking up garbage and they're just really standing there more as like a preventative, not really doing anything. And this poor girl lost her life because this guy was able to get guns, because it's very easy to get guns in this country.
Well, that's the bigger thing.
Right.
Right. We're talking, here's a president that wants to talk about trying to crack down on violence. And the one key ingredient in most violent crimes in this country is the one thing that he and far too many politicians don't want to talk about. So we're not having a serious conversation. If you're talking about saving American citizens, then you need to have a conversation that polling numbers tell us people want this. You'll never have it. We're not getting anywhere closer to making it harder for someone to have a gun. And as a result, we have this poor woman murdered. And now we're going to bring her, we're going to just bring her parents up just for political theater, because he really doesn't give a shit.
His wonderful mother.
Yeah. And again, she would not have been there if not for his
night,
actions of deploying the National Guard into
she was
DC.
so positive.
It's very simple. This is not like a Mike Leon, Republican, Democrat leaning position. This is like he requested National Guard troops. A different president would not have requested National Guard troops. She would be alive.
He was given almost no chance. She said, I have no doubt, sir, he's going to be okay. This was a conversation that I had with her that night, with her son laying helplessly in bed, blood all over. Everybody is praying, she said, sir, he will be okay. The doctors didn't understand what she was saying. And after looking at the results of the damage done, neither did I. She was so strong and conclusive that even Andrew's great father felt she didn't really understand the gravity of the situation. But she turned out to be right. Right, Melanie? She turned out to be right.
I think that's the kid that survived in the shooting as well. Like the other National Guardsman that was a part of that.
I mean, we're at a point now where all we're doing right now is just putting forward a policy that, again, we don't necessarily know if it's working. And then we use one example. And so we'll look at how it helped this person out. And it's not just Republicans, Democrats do this too. And I don't know when the State of the Union became a token party, but this is ridiculous.
Amazing, actually. I said, where does this woman come from? She's the most positive person I've ever met. With God's help, Andrew has battled back from the edge of death. And we're talking about the edge of death. On his way to a miraculous recovery. He's got a little work to do, but he's doing great. Nice to see you. He's a good-looking guy. Nice to see you. Thanks, Andrew. Thank you very much.
He looks like he has to pass a kidney stone.
So, Andrew, while you're up, now I'm going to ask a highly respected General James Seward to present Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf and the great family of Sarah Beckstrom with the award created by our late, great President George Washington himself. It's called the Purple Heart. We love you all. Love you. We're proudly restoring safety for Americans at home, and we are also restoring security for Americans abroad. Our country has never been stronger. In my first 10 months, I ended 8 wars, including Cambodia. Isn't it funny? Sick people. Cambodia and Thailand, Pakistan and India. Would have been a nuclear war. 35 million people said.
Again, Pakistan and
The Prime
India both
Minister of
said that
Pakistan would have
President
died if
Trump
it were
didn't have
not for
anything
my
to do with the
involvement.
communist
Kosovo
tensions.
and Serbia,
Go look that up. That's not Mike Neal saying
Israel
that.
and
That's
Iran,
the
Egypt
PM
and
for
Ethiopia,
Pakistan.
Armenia and Azerbaijan, the Congo and Rwanda, and of course the war in Gaza, which proceeds at a very low level. It's just about there. And I want to thank Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner for your help. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Jared.
I just saw, by the way, that that David Ellison is attending the State of the Union. And for people who don't know, that's the Paramount CEO that Trump is encouraging to buy up all of these different media conglomerates like he has done with CBS and you know, configuring it to more right-leaning, and now the play that they're making for Warner Brothers.
Which apparently the board still wants to go with Netflix, but maybe a matter of the shareholders.
Hey, the Latino that does all the jobs.
Yeah, there's that subtle joke in there that, like,
Not subtle. I just said it. It's a Latino that does
well,
all
listen,
the jobs.
I find it's fine coming from you, but we need to. Some folks need to kind of step away from that one a little bit.
Yeah, no, I love jumping into it.
Real talk though. I actually think he should be the nominee in 2028.
54%.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. I mean, he's got enough jobs that he could put it on his resume and stack it up. So yeah.
Guy. And he said it's an honor that they feel that way, right, Marco? You have done a great job, great Secretary of State. I think he'll go down as the best ever.
Better than Thomas fucking Jefferson? This man never reads a history book. Oh my goodness.
Under the ceasefire I negotiated, every single hostage, both living and dead, has been returned home. Can you believe that? Nobody thought it was possible. Nobody thought that was possible. Both living and dead. And those parents who had a dead son, their boy, they'd always tell me their boy, they wanted him as much as though he were living. That was an amazing period of time. And they came back, and when we got all of the living hostages back, and many, many before them, but I always said those last 20 are going to be very tough, but we got many, many more, hundreds. But I said those last 20 are going to be tough. We got them back. But we only got back 14 or 15 of the dead of the 28. And believe it or not, Hamas worked along with Israel, and they dug and they dug and they dug. It's a tough thing to do, going through bodies all over, passing up 100 bodies sometimes for each one that they found. Tough job. And they finally got it back to 27. And then Steve and Jared, they got it back to 28. They found all 28. Nobody thought that was possible, but we did it. And I remember the family of the 28th. They were so grieved, but they were so happy as it's possible to be. They had their boy back. The mother said, "Sir, we have our boy back." What a period of time that was, but we got them all back. So thank you both very much. Great job. And we're working very hard to end the 9th war, the killing and slaughter between Russia and Ukraine, where 25,000 soldiers are dying each and every month. Think of that, 25,000 soldiers are dying a month. A war which would have never happened if I were president, would have never happened. As president, I will make peace wherever I can, but I will never hesitate to confront threats to America wherever we must. That's why in a breakthrough operation last June, the United States military, obliterated Iran's nuclear weapons program with an attack on Iranian soil known as Operation Midnight Hammer.
Not completely obliterated, as has been reported. Iran is actually on pace to get a nuclear weapon within the time frames that the intelligence community themselves has said.
For decades, it had been the policy of the United States never to allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. Many decades. Since they seized control of that proud nation 47 years ago, the regime and its murderous proxies have spread nothing but terrorism and death and hate. They've killed and maimed thousands of American service members and hundreds of thousands and even millions of people with what's called roadside bombs. They were the kings of the roadside bomb. And we took out Soleimani. I did that during my first term. Had a huge impact. He was the father of the roadside bomb. And just over the last couple of months with the protests, they've killed at least, it looks like 32,000 protests, 32,000 protesters in their own country. They shot them and hung them. We stopped them from hanging a lot of them with the threat of serious violence. But this is some terrible people. They've already developed missiles that can threaten Europe and our bases overseas, and they're working to build missiles that will soon reach the United States of America. After Midnight Hammer, they were warned to make no future attempts to rebuild their weapons program, and in particular, nuclear weapons. Yet they continue, starting it all over. We wiped it out, and they want to start all over again, and are at this moment again pursuing their sinister ambitions. We are in negotiations with them. They want to make a deal, but we haven't heard those secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. But one thing is certain, I will never allow the world's #1 sponsor of terror, which they are by far, to have a nuclear weapon. Can't let that happen. And no nation should ever doubt America's resolve. We have the most powerful military on earth. I rebuilt the military in my first term. We're going to continue to do so. Also, we just approved a $1 trillion budget. We have no choice. We have to be strong, because hopefully we will seldom have to use this great power that we built together. It's really called peace through strength, and it's been very, very effective. So thanks to Republicans in Congress, we're investing that record number of dollars, have no choice, in the United States Armed Forces. Also creating a lot of jobs, but we're not even doing it for that reason. Because as I said, we have more jobs, more people working today than ever before in the history of our country. And NATO countries are friends and allies. They are. They're our friends and they're our allies, have just agreed at my very strong request to pay 5% of GDP for military defense rather than the 2%, which they weren't paying. We were paying for almost all of NATO. Now they're paying 5 as opposed to not paying 3. And getting that 5% was something which everyone said would never be done, could not happen. We got it really easily with one meeting. And big difference between 2% that's not paid. We were paying the freight of many of them. Very few were paid up. Now 5%, then they're paid. And everything we send over to Ukraine is sent through NATO, and they pay us in full. They pay us totally in full. Every branch of our armed forces is setting records for recruitment. This is so exciting. And every service member recently. And every service member recently received a warrior dividend of $1,776. You know, they put it on my desk. We got the money from tariffs and other things, a lot of money we have. We have much more money than people understand. Have to rebuild that program a little bit, but it won't take long. But we got the money, and it was $1,775, and they wanted my approval. And I said, what's the number? $1,775. I said, wait a minute, for one more dollar, we can have $1,776. It's going to... I said, we're going to figure that. I never asked anybody if we could afford it. One more dollar, I said $1,776. And I said, that's good. And I'll tell you what, our military, that was 4 months ago, our military, I never see a person in the military that doesn't thank me for it, so we're honored to do it. They deserve it. And we call it 1776. It was great. And we love our military. We love our law enforcement. We love our firemen. You know, the firemen don't get mentioned enough. We love our firemen. We're also... We're also restoring American security and dominance in the Western Hemisphere, acting to secure our national interests and defend our country from violence, drugs, terrorism, and foreign interference. For years, large swaths of territory in our region, including large parts of Mexico, really large parts of Mexico, have been controlled by murderous drug cartels. That's why I designated these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and I declared illicit fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. And with our new military campaign, we have stopped record amounts of drugs coming into our country and virtually stopped it completely coming in by water or sea. You probably noticed that. We very seriously damaged their fishing industry also. Nobody wants to go fishing anymore. We've also taken down one of the most sinister cartel kingpins of all. You saw that yesterday. In January, elite American...
All right, folks, we're going to let you watch the rest of the State of the Union on your own. Everybody is going to have their own thoughts and opinions on this. It is getting a little bit late into the evening. It's getting a little bit boring, to be honest with you, in terms of the speech. Nick, just your high-level takeaway so far of everything we heard, because I heard a couple of things that you said there in agreement with respect to what the president was talking about.
Yeah, I think in terms of some of this, like some of the specific areas or initiatives that he's launching or ones that have taken off recently, as it relates to, companies being able to buy up, private homes to sell them directly as opposed to individual people like us doing it. That's a great measure. I think it's much needed. Talking about prescription drug prices and trying to bring them down. I don't know if Trump RX is going to work. I'm sorry, folks. Call me whatever you want. Again, I grew up in the Northeast. I've seen this carnival barker for the better part of my life. And almost always this person can never be trusted to come through on a promise. I don't think he's going to with this either. But the sentiment is important. I do think we have to keep pushing at plans to reduce drug pricing. In terms of that comment about insurance companies and healthcare, I certainly agree with that. But I don't think what the Republican plan, which is just to gut the ACA, and put money back in people's pockets. I don't think, and you talked about this too, I don't think long term that's necessarily going to get us closer to reducing healthcare costs. There was something, yeah, I certainly agreed. Oh, the comments about members of Congress not owning stocks. I'm very much a proponent of getting away from people in Congress being able to have advantages that we don't. Better health care, insider trading, essentially. Like,
Right.
why do we have those things? Again, but I'm talking about a person in the presidency who we've seen already reported has basically built up his family's brand by to the tune of $3 billion for himself and the Trump family. Am I supposed to trust him to tell other members of the government to not profit on their government job? No. But again, I think the sentiment's important. I do hope that really members of Congress unilaterally should pass that act.
Right.
Um,
I agree.
so I think it's interesting. I think there's a sizable portion of items that he talks about that I agree with. I think where the speech starts to fall apart is you cannot talk about a policy and then bring up the one example of where we're going to say, well, this is where it worked. Because to me, that's theater that I've seen this on the other side with Democrats. I don't think it really brings us any closer to addressing the major issue. And really, when he's talking about shame on him for bringing up Minnesota and then not talking about the major failings of ICE and the murder of 2 American citizens.
Right.
You know, we talked all night about he has of protecting American citizens. ICE failed on that twice. And they
Right.
have in other ways when they've arrested people who turned out to be American citizens. So it really rings hollow when you want to talk about the Somalian population. You want to talk about Minnesota, and you're casually leaving out a royal fuck up on behalf of the Department of Homeland Security. But
Yeah.
again, voters, take this as an important data point. The night began with, where the president's approval rating is, and I will go back to the one data point that I connect with the tone of racism that appears in some elements of the speech when you talk about people from other countries, particularly from the southern border, being the murderers and the rapists and all this, racist stuff. The number of Latino voters that are supporting this president continues to drop. It went from 40%, 43% at the time of the 2024 election. It's at 22%. Independents are also dropping from about 38 down to 26. These are the populations that the president's going to try to win back. And if I'm a Latino person, again, I'm not speaking as though I am one, but what I heard tonight is you're telling me the same old story. You're telling me that people like me come over this border, try to have a better life in this country. You keep hitting me with, well, I'm either from a mental institution, I'm a criminal, or I'm a rapist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a couple of things, and then we'll sign off here. Tariffs are a tax. Again, 90% of Americans, excuse me, 90% of tariffs are passed down to consumers based on the 2026 report that came out. Only 10% have been eaten by governments or businesses themselves that have been able to eat it and not pass it back on to the consumer. Up to an average of $1,300 to $1,700 a home is being felt in terms of tariff prices for goods, everyday American goods. Tariffs are a negotiating ploy to get, your import exports and your trade to deficit to kind of balance. But tariffs don't necessarily work from people that I've spoken to, and we've had economists that have been on this show that have echoed similar things. There is something about bringing back American jobs and having certain sectors that we used to outsource from other countries back in America. The problem is that shit in America is expensive, whether it be labor, whether it be, factories and warehouses and all that stuff. That's why we get it from these other countries, because their labor is cheaper and so on and so forth. You know how that works. Google Nike, everybody, for a second. Okay, so anyway, that's the whole point of this. So he lied a little bit about that. The job market in terms of job growth from fiscal end of 24 to 2025, let's say like mid-year, let's give them mid-year, right? From May to end of the year, jobs have slowed down in terms of growth year over year. They've just slowed down. I'm talking like 50, 60, 70,000 less than what was reported in 24 in terms of creation to what's being reported in 2025. That's not me that's going to be feeling, I mean, it is a little bit, but like it's other people that are in these other sectors that are not feeling it. So you're already taxing me more on other things that I would normally buy as everyday goods. And then, oh, by the way, there's less jobs available out there, which means more competition, which means I'm probably not going to get it, which means I stay on government programming, like, unemployment and things like that. It's a trickle down effect. So all of that is coming home to roost. He hasn't solved 8 wars, folks. There's still wars that are going on, including Russia, Ukraine. It's a hypothetical to say that it wouldn't have started if he was president back then. We have no idea if it would have started or not. The war in Gaza is still not over. Israel still is still bombing Gaza. Not on a daily, but they are still bombing areas of Gaza. And nothing has happened with Hamas. Nothing has happened with this phase 2 of this installation plan and what we're going to do, because Hamas is still operating the Gaza Strip. And then some of these other wars, like I mentioned, that he claims are in the South bucket are not in the South bucket. India, Pakistan never rose to the level of a war. And the Pakistan prime minister said Trump had nothing to do with us actually coming to agreement in terms of not blowing each other up to smithereens, because both have nuclear weapons. So that's not me saying that. That's the Pakistani prime minister. You can go look up his comments and what he said about that. So I'm not the prime minister of Pakistan. He is. So there you go. Like there's just some things, again, Nick and I agree about what he said about the cashless bail system. That needs to be changed across some of these states, including some of these blue dots in some of these states, because that incident that happened with the stabbing on that train happened in Charlotte, but that's in North Carolina, right? So like we need to change some of these things. But again, how do we reform them? Do you really want to be serious about it and tackle the problem, or do you just want to pass something that doesn't actually tackle the core issues, like the Save America's Act with respect to voting? We already all register to vote by showing ID, or when we go to the precinct, depending upon your state, if you live in one of those 10 states, you have to show ID. You can't just show up. Nicki Minaj can't vote as a perfect example because she's a permanent resident. She's not a U.S. citizen. That's the whole point of this. Their allegation that non-citizens vote is just not true. There is no widespread fraud. And I'm not using my numbers. I'm using the Heritage Foundation numbers, a very, very right-leaning think tank foundation, the one that wrote Project 2025. Those people are telling you there isn't widespread massive voter fraud, in addition to the Cato Institute. So we're not listening to the rest of the speech right now. You can go watch it because he is continuing into the overnight hours. Make your own judgments. Leave comments for us here. Nick and I will be back with more assessment on not only the State of the Union, but we're going to be talking a little bit as well about what's going on in Mexico and everything that happened there with that cartel killing and what's been happening, as Laura Villagrán is going to be rejoining us on the show, fantastic correspondent over at USA Today, who's been covering a lot of that. So keep watching the State of the Union. Subscribe for